there's no one doing the wide scope of election integrity work in the United States that Judicial Watch is doing on behalf of the rule of law and clean and fair elections. New lawsuit for cleaner elections in California was just filed this week by Judicial Watch attorneys, an important new lawsuit to try to clean up the dirty voting rolls in California. According to the lawsuit, there are over 873,000 ineligible voters on the rolls, meaning these are people who have likely died, moved away, or otherwise shouldn't be on the rolls because it's just been too long since they've last been active. Now, the lawsuit comes on the heels of several other Judicial Watch lawsuits over the years, which have caused the release most recently of well over, at this point, 6 million names from the voting rolls. These are people who, as I said, are died, moved away, otherwise ineligible. And until Judicial Watch started filing these lawsuits in federal court, states were simply not cleaning up the rolls. And Judicial Watch actually had a previous lawsuit several years ago against California. I think it settled in 2019. That led to the removal of 1.2 million names from LA County alone, thanks to the settlement. But the problem is the state generally and many other counties haven't been keeping up, despite this prior lawsuit, despite the settlement, which included, as best I recall, the state alerting counties to their obligations under federal law to clean the rolls. It still isn't happening. And so this is an important new lawsuit, and the details are extraordinary in terms of just how awful the voter list maintenance process is in various counties in the great state of California. Now, under the National Voter Registration Act, most inactive voter registrations are to be removed after 2 general federal elections. And I'll say it once and I'll say it again. This is how it goes. If you don't vote in a general federal election, let's say next year, let's say you don't vote in the 2026 congressional election, the county or the state or both are supposed to send you a card. Hey, Tom, where are you? You didn't vote. Let us know. Are you still there? And if I don't respond to that card or otherwise vote in the next 2 federal election cycles, so once every 2 years, so 28 and then 30, they're supposed to take my name off the rolls. They're not doing that in California. It's a simple process, and they're not doing it. And we had previously sued, I think it was 2 years ago. We had to dismiss that lawsuit for various reasons. But what happened is, in the course of that lawsuit, California admitted, I think under oath, to having these extra names on the rolls. As we say in our press release, the new federal lawsuit alleges, based on admissions in prior Judicial Watch litigation, that 873,092 voter registrations have remained continuously inactive for at least 3 federal elections, and some for much longer. And here are the specifics. I think I got a nice little picture that shows it all. Let's bring it up here. So this is a promotional picture from the internet. So look at that. You can still see it. 326,608 names have remained continuously inactive through at least 3 consecutive federal general elections. That means the person hasn't voted or otherwise communicated with the state or the county voting officials for 6 years. At least 151,202 registrants have been inactive for 4 federal elections. That's over 8 years. 33,922 inactive voters have been around just hanging on the rolls for 10 plus years. You know, and you can see why we do this in the back here. Look at that quote. Dirty voting rolls can mean dirty elections. And that's the key issue here. If you've got the dirty voting rolls, it's a pool from which fraudsters can draw from to vote illegally. That's why federal law requires these steps that Judicial Watch has highlighted. Now, just in the last few weeks, we've highlighted how in Oregon we settled a lawsuit that resulted in 800,000 names being cleaned off the rolls. A prior Colorado federal lawsuit under this provision of the National Voter Registration Act requiring regular cleanups resulted, was it 370-something thousand, I think the number was, names being cleaned up off the rolls. So that was 1.1 million names in just 2 states, well over 6 million. And I tell you, if this lawsuit goes forward and these names end up getting removed, we're talking upwards of well over 7 million names being cleaned up, not by the Justice Department and not by the states themselves, only through legal pressure and litigation from Judicial Watch. So it's really a remarkable set of circumstances that Judicial Watch is in, that despite the massive voter concern for cleaning up the election rolls in honest elections, that it's this private watchdog group, our team here at Judicial Watch, our legal team led by Bob Popper, former DOJ civil rights attorney, and his colleagues are doing all of this heavy lifting. Now we're representing, in this case, 2 individuals, or an individual and a party, is Dan Wagner, who's an elected member of the Orange County Board of Supervisors. He's a candidate for the California Secretary of State, so we're appreciative that Dan put his confidence in us in representing him and his interest as he tries to get the rolls cleaned up. And the American Independent Party of California, which is a third party in California. I think Robert F. Kennedy ran on that party's line. In June 2025, the U.S. Election Assistance Commission, as required by law, issued a report to Congress on various states' NVRA compliance. Citing this report, Judicial Watch pointed out, this is not Judicial Watch's information, this is the Election Assistance Commission, which is a federal entity. 20 California counties removed 50 or fewer inactive voters from their rolls between November 2022 and November 2024. 10 of these counties reported 0 removals of inactives under the relevant statute during the time period. These 10 counties, if you live in California, listen carefully, see if you live there: Alpine, Imperial, Inyo, Kings, Mariposa, Mendocino, Plumas, San Bernardino, Tehama, and Trinity. Counties reporting 50 or fewer removals include Butte, Colusa, Contra Costa, Glen, Lassen, Modoc, Santa Cruz, Siskiyou, Sonoma, and Tuolumne. So this is an incredible indictment of those counties' failure to clean up the rolls, because people move out by the tens and hundreds of thousands by over that period of time. And the idea that they're not keeping up with them is inexcusable in this day and age. The 20 counties reporting 0 to 50 registrations in that time period that I just disclosed, over 2 years, have a combined total of 3.44 million voter registrations. And just altogether, they removed 218 people. So that makes a mockery of the basic duties and responsibilities that these election officials have, but also a mockery of the rule of law that govern their required activity to make sure that the elections are fair and honest by helping ensure the lists are clean, or as clean as they can reasonably be. You know, you may not like to hear this, but it's true. There's no requirement the rolls have to be perfectly clean, right? It's whether they're taking reasonable steps to clean up the rolls under federal law. So it's not like every person on the roll, if there's someone who's not supposed to be there, oh, there's a violation of law if they're still there, potentially. No, it's are you taking the steps to reassure people that the rolls are being maintained in a reasonable fashion? And I described what that reasonable fashion is. Asking people, you haven't voted, are you still there? And if they don't answer you within a reasonable amount of time, you take their names off the rolls. San Diego County is kind of a contrast to how things are supposed to go. They have 2.2 million registrants, right? Much, a million less than those 20 counties. And they've removed 300,000 voter registrations in the same time period. So one county removed 300,000 voter registrations. 20 counties with a bigger population removed 218. It's a complete collapse of voter maintenance across a wide swath of the great state of California. And as I said, the numbers of people moving, now there are people moving from California for reasons other than just life changes. They just want to escape the leftists there. So you can imagine the numbers are pretty extraordinary. And of course, California is a huge state, so it just stands to reason they've got a lot of inflow and outflow of population, whether or not the politics aside. 660,000 California residents moved out of state in 2024, 690,000 in 2023, and 818,000 in 2022. So what does that add up to? 6 and 6 is 12, and 8 is 20. And another 1.5. So 2.15 million people have moved, and in these 20 counties, they've removed 218 names total. If California was actually conducting a general program that makes a reasonable effort to cancel the registrations of voters who have become ineligible because of a change of residence, it would not be possible for these counties to cancel so few registrations under the NVRA in a 2-year period. "18 counties have more voter registrations on their rolls than there are people that are above the age of 18, basically living there and eligible to vote. So that's a pretty good indication that you're not cleaning up the rolls if you've got more people on the voting rolls than voters by population. Judicial Watch's federal lawsuit confirms California has a dirty voting rolls crisis, with thousands of old names on the rolls going back at least 10 years. Dirty voting rolls can mean dirty elections, and California and its counties must take immediate steps to clean the over 870,000 dirty voting rolls on the list. So this is a huge lawsuit on behalf of the rule of law and election integrity in California. And there's really nothing comparable like it. Now, the Justice Department has sued, thankfully, many states. I think 29 states have fought the Justice Department in terms of refusing to turn over voting rolls as the Justice Department conducts its own investigation of the voting rolls. But those lawsuits, however much necessary, aren't resulting in voting roll cleanups. Our lawsuits are. They're taking a different tack in their approach. They're trying to understand what's on the rolls, get states to remove non-citizens, et cetera. But here we're in federal court trying to enforce the rule of law. And as our settlements with Oregon show, Colorado, we settled in New York City. Washington, D.C., they agreed to do what we asked them to do to clean up the rolls. It's not just we're fighting Democrats and the Democrats refuse to turn over, clean up the list. No, we sue states run by Democrats, states run by Republicans, and both settle with us. Both agree, Judicial Watch. We're going to clean up the rolls. Now, they never agree that we're right and they were wrong because it's a settlement. But, you sue, they clean up the rolls. It's pretty hard to argue it's anything other than the lawsuit that caused one thing to happen from the lawsuit. So when it comes to election integrity, on issue after issue, Judicial Watch is on the front lines. I've talked to you about cleaning up the voting rolls. We've talked in the past about our efforts to take the race-based insanity out of congressional gerrymandering. We've been successful in that, in making our arguments to the public and to the courts. And the left now is going crazy because those race-based districts are going the way of segregation, really, because that's what they are. They're segregationist districts, purposefully. Just terrible stuff. And then, of course, separately, we have these lawsuits to ensure that ballots that arrive late are not counted, because we have an election day, not an election week, not an election month. And we have a case pending right now before the Supreme Court of the United States that is, according to observers, likely to result in a big victory, where the Supreme Court finds that you can't count ballots that arrive late, because election day under federal law means the ballots got to get there by election day in order to be counted. What a great victory for the rule of law if that happens, and that could come down really any day between now and the end of next month, the end of June. And that will result, if we win, now of course, knock on wood, who knows, maybe we'll lose. But if we win, it could mean that 30 states got to change their rules and elections are going to be a lot more honest. Or you're going to have more confidence in the elections because you'll know that you're not going to have numbers change days and weeks after Election Day as a result of late ballots arriving that people are immediately suspicious of. So just great work by Judicial Watch. And, you know, this town is famous for people who yap a lot, and I yap a lot too sometimes. But we sue, we investigate. And there's no one doing the wide scope of election integrity work in the United States that Judicial Watch is doing on behalf of the rule of law and clean and fair elections. Just great work. And I know we've saved elections as a result of doing that, and we will save elections in the future as a result of the work we're doing now. Just great stuff. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.